Listening Test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. You will have time to read the instructions and questions and you will be given time to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts.
Now turn to part 1.
You will hear 2 teachers, Andrew and Katie, discussing the coming excursion of their language class. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Well, we have this school excursion planned, but when exactly is it? Is it this Tuesday or Wednesday?
Well, it can't be Tuesday with the English tests taking place.
Ah, right, not Tuesday but Wednesday.
That's right, all day Wednesday, taking a bus outside the city.
The excursion is on Wednesday, so Wednesday has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Well, we have this school excursion planned, but when exactly is it? Is it this Tuesday or Wednesday?
Well, it can't be Tuesday with the English tests taking place.
Ah, right, not Tuesday but Wednesday.
That's right, all day Wednesday, taking a bus outside the city.
And where are we going?
Last month we went to Arthur Island, so this time we're going to the animal park.
Arthur Island was okay, but it was too cold. Let's hope the weather for this week's excursion is better. I don't suppose animals care about bad weather, but I certainly do. Have you heard the forecast?
Yes, and it's not too bad. Basically, they're saying Monday will be sunny.
Good.
But then the weather will change.
Not so good.
Yes, Tuesday we'll have some showers, but by Wednesday, the day of our excursion, it will be, well, their words are cold and cloudy.
Cold and cloudy. Well, as long as it isn't wet and rainy, I'm happy enough. We won't need umbrellas, just warm clothing. And what time will we get there?
Let's see, the bus picks us up at 8:30 a.m. and then it's an hour and a half on the road, so we arrive at 10 a.m. Sorry, with the 15-minute break, that will actually be 10:15 a.m.
That's early enough. Then all our students can see the animals, have their fun, and do whatever they want to do.
Well, one fun event planned that day is Birds of Prey.
What's that?
That's when they bring out several birds of prey, eagles, falcons, kites, those sorts of birds, and throw pieces of meat into the air, and the birds swoop down and eat them. It's quite impressive.
Sounds great. Birds of prey. Are there any other activities?
There's a catered lunch at the park restaurant. We've already paid for that. And in the afternoon there's... Well, I had a choice between the reptile display and the koala handling. In the reptile display, the students can handle live pythons and various other snakes.
Surely they'd rather hold koalas.
I'm sure, but the koalas can't be handled unless the weather's sunny, and given the forecast, I thought it better to choose the reptile display.
That's a shame. These Asian students would love the koala handling.
Yes, I know, but we can't control the weather.
And then we get back. What time will that be?
We leave the park at 4:30, but then we face traffic, so we won't get back until well after 6 p.m. It will most likely be 6:30, but that's better than the last trip. We didn't get home until 8:30 that time.
Yes, that was a bit too late, wasn't it?
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Andrew, I understand you've been doing some research regarding the breakdown by nationality of our student body. That must have produced some interesting results.
You're right. I got some statistics from head office.
I would imagine that most of our students are either Japanese or Chinese.
You imagine right. But it's the Chinese who constitute the majority, but only just. I had thought Koreans might be second, but it's actually the Japanese, quite close behind. It's somewhat surprising, but obviously all those study tours that our university markets in Japan are bringing in students.
What's the breakdown exactly?
Japanese are a quarter of the whole, which is considerable. Last year they were only 16%, so that market has grown nicely. The only other proportions of some weight are the Indonesians and Koreans, about the same. Indonesians at 15% and the Koreans are a little higher, not like last year when they were less than 10%.
I thought we'd have more Indonesians than Koreans.
Well, as I said, they're about the same. Just like the Saudi and Thai student numbers, almost the same also, both just under 10.
Which one is bigger?
Thai students number just a fraction more. As for the other nationalities, collectively they're only 3%, so it wasn't worth giving each of them a separate category. I just grouped them under other. That's Vietnamese, South American, a couple of Russians, and so on.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 1. Part 2.
You will hear a representative from Easy Travel Travel Agency explaining to some customers the benefits of her company. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Hello everyone. Now you're here because you're interested in travel, right? And you're in the right place. For at Easy Travel we have the best deals for the best locations. We specialize in eco-travel, or holidays designed to get you amongst nature, ignoring the hustle and bustle of big cities. So whether you want to hike in Nepal, as many people do, or follow some jungle paths in the rainforests of Queensland, we can give you the best deal. If you look at our office here, you'll see our overseas consultants. That's for trips overseas, obviously, to Europe, to North America, but primarily for the Asian market, which is generally more popular in this part of the world. Most people like that touch of the Orient, right? But they also like the domestic market, since this country offers its fair share of beautiful natural vistas. What about the deserts, anyone? What about some striking red rock gorges? Then talk to our domestic consultants who can arrange anything you want. But they deal with the accounts in the morning, so you'll need to talk to them in the afternoon. And remember, our office doesn't open at night, sorry to say. Now, around the outskirts and outer regions of this city, there are many beautiful places that you might not be aware of, and the advantages of these regional locations are many. Mostly by being closer, some of them can be done in a day tour. Yes, it's fast and convenient with none of those long-haul bus trips which often leave you cramped and uncomfortable and stuffing heavy suitcases into luggage racks. But I should tell you about our buses, those that are needed for the somewhat more distant holiday destinations. They definitely do not suffer from those problems I just mentioned. We use the services of the famous Sleek Line Company, whose buses are known as the very best. Yes, they are big, yes, they are comfortable, but what makes them especially different is the personal attendant who accompanies the driver, ready and willing to serve you and ensure that your trip is the very best. So whether it's overseas or local, we can certainly give you what you want. Now, do you have any questions?
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
Right, let me orient you to our main Easy Travel office here. On this table right beside us are travel magazines for you to browse through, and on the wall next to that are many more for all parts of the world. Our 4 travel consultants sit over there on the other side of that long counter. That's right, 4 of them, side by side, all serving various regions. Now, let me tell you their specific functions. Firstly, the consultant on the left, next to the plant, is the local tours consultant, serving tours in the immediate vicinity of this city. Next to her is what we call regional tours, targeting the statewide options. Next to her is the interstate tours, and that can involve either buses or planes. In the former case, utilizing the Sleek Line bus service, as you know. And finally, next to her in the corner is General Inquiries, which is self-explanatory. If you have questions of a general nature, rather than one relating to specific destinations, you can go there. Now, as I said, we can do international tours, and for that you need our big office, just through that door, the one between those 2 plants. However, if your international tour is in the Asian region, which is generally our most popular option, then we deal with that in a separate room, the one opposite international tours, but not the corner one. Just go through that door on the left, the one next to that cupboard. The door next to that is, in fact, our general office, so please don't go through there. That's reserved for staff members only.
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2. Part 3.
You will hear a conversation between 2 students, David and Maria, about the candidates for an election for student officers. First, you have some time to look at questions. Now listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions.
Hi, Maria. Have you voted yet?
Oh, hello, David. What did you say?
Have you voted yet? You know, in the student union elections.
Well, no. I mean, they've only just released the names of the final candidates. The first round elections were only held last week.
But I voted already.
Yes, but that's the first round. You know how this works, don't you?
Well, not exactly. I mean, I thought you just voted.
It's pretty simple, but it's made more complicated because this university has 4 colleges, not just one. Each college can have many candidates for each post. These are reduced to a logical number. Then the real voting takes place.
So what did I vote for last week?
That was the first round, like I said. You voted for the candidates for Peterborough College, that's all. There are also candidates from the other 3 colleges.
Oh, I see.
Well, there are 7 positions to apply for in the union, although 2 of those are dealt with later in the year. That's the president and the vice president. Anyway, each college sends 1 candidate on to the second round, so that's 4 in all for each post. In other words,
it's 20 candidates. That's quite a lot.
it isn't when you think that there are 14,000 students at this college.
No, I suppose not. Can they all vote?
Yes, part-time and full-time students. Everyone. But most don't. Only about a quarter of those eligible to actually bothered.
You now have some time to look at questions. Now listen to the rest of the conversation and answer questions.
So, who are the candidates from our college?
There was a leaflet about it this week. Some of the students stood as candidates for several posts before the final ones were selected. I think Jenny de Groot is standing for Women's Officer. She wanted to be Finance Officer, but Law got that post.
She seems to be more suited to working for the female students here.
Yes, I like her. She's the best person for the job. I'm not sure I'd support Michael McCarthy for his post. He's putting up for Entertainments Officer.
Doesn't he arrange the Saturday night band for the college? And the sports events? Surely he'd be ideal. He has so much experience.
Maybe. I don't think he chooses the right kind of groups for the college. He's too way out. He's not my choice.
Who's the candidate to be overseas officer?
A Chinese student who's been here for just over a year. She's the president of the Chinese club, and she organises some interesting cultural evenings for them. She seems to be quite capable.
Do you really think so? She's in my seminar group for linguistics. Her English is quite poor, and she's so shy she never mixes with us.
Oh, there are 30 different nationalities here, so she'd need to be more sociable. Perhaps Vikram Patel would have been a better choice.
Yes, I think so. Who did you say was finance officer? Law? Charles Law? He does accountancy, so he should be able to cope with the post. He'd be responsible for a lot of money.
I've always thought he was unreliable. And didn't he fail some of his exams in the first year? Doesn't sound too competent to me.
OK, yes, you're probably right. Who's the other person on the list?
It's Brian McKay.
Oh, McKay. He's quite a character. What position is he standing for?
He wants to be the liaison officer. The person who lets the teaching staff know about any problems the students might have. He's such a sociable person. He'd be a great communicator.
Yes, he's articulate and well-organised, but he wouldn't be my first choice. Anyway, they're only the candidates from Peterborough College, so we'll have to wait for the results of the real election next week to see who actually gets each post.
Yes, we can discuss this again.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Part 4.
You will hear a lecturer giving a talk on languages. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully to the talk and answer questions 31 to 40.
Thank you all for coming. Are we all here? Right, well, let's begin. This lecture, as you know, is the third in our course, Introduction to Linguistics. Today, we'll be looking at a variety of different languages, not any one specific one, and we'll be looking especially at languages which can help us understand how both language and languages evolve. Another issue that we will be exploring is the way in which languages have changed over time. These are fairly complex areas and they have proved to be rather difficult to grasp. And there are many different theories, some of which we'll look at today. But first, I want to talk briefly about a few different ways of looking at a language. Now, the language we all speak, English, is what is called a natural language, like French, German, Greek. What do we mean by that? Well, it's a difficult term to define, because most languages have evolved naturally, except for a very few, such as Esperanto, which was invented in the 19th century. So, I suppose that what we mean by natural is a language which we consider stable, fixed, not constantly changing. Now, as we know, all languages are in fact constantly changing, so it's something of a misnomer. But let's put it another way. Natural languages are considered by us to be permanent. They didn't appear suddenly. They grew up out of other things. Now, I want to contrast these languages with two other kinds of language: Pidgin languages and Creole languages. A Pidgin language is a language which is forced into being by circumstances, usually some sort of situation where two groups meet and don't speak each other's language, and they invent an intermediary language, usually for the purpose of trade or sometimes war. An example is Tok Pisin, which is a pidgin spoken in Papua New Guinea. A Creole language, on the other hand, develops from a pidgin into a full language. This happens when the pidgin starts having native speakers, that is, people whose first language is the pidgin. This happened in the case of the French Creole spoken in New Orleans, for example. Pidgins are found all over the world. especially in areas which are or were once important trade routes. The Caribbean, China, Indian, the Pacific. Basically, pigeons can be identified with one or two important characteristics. They are made up of parts of the two languages spoken by the group that have met, the trading groups or whatever, and they are usually based on a simplified form of one of those languages. That is, their grammar is a less complicated version of the grammar in one language. They use vocabulary from both languages, but there are fewer words, so each word often has more than one meaning. For example, in Tokpisin, grass-belong face means hair or beard. The pronunciation is also made simpler as pigeons lose the complex vowels of the parent languages. Creoles, on the other hand, formed when pigeons are learnt as a first language, are just as complex as so-called natural languages. They are expanded pigeons. There is often a considerable element of politicalization, as the emphasis moves from communication, which to pigeon speakers is most important, to community, which is the mark of a Creole. That is, a Creole is a community who speak a different, marginalized language. They often have to struggle to get their language recognized. As to where pigeons come from, there are basically two theories. The first claims that all pigeons are descended from a medieval trading language, what you might call the first pigeon, called Sabir. This is believed to have been based on Portuguese. It was spread as the Portuguese traders went from place to place.
That is the end of section 4. You will have half a minute to check your answers.
That is the end of the listening test.